Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our weekly prop breakdown. This time, we've got ourselves the John Deere Classic. Gonna go over what to expect from TPC Deere Run, the golf course this week, as well as some of my top props for Thursday's action that you'll want to keep an eye on. We've got an LPGA board, also some live golf that we can take a look at. So a few extra little tidbits that I'll throw in for those slates, but mostly going to be focusing on the PGA Tour side. So speaking of, we've got TPC Deere Run, which is typically one of the easier courses on tour, but last year actually played a little bit harder than usual. So still well under par, a 1.12 under par scoring average that you can see up here in the top left. You had a driving accuracy higher than your tour average, and also a green regulation percentage that was much higher than tour average. A few things I want to point out here though. So first off, if we take a look at a few of the other years here, you'll see that the scoring averages are usually easier, and most notably that this driving accuracy percentage, which was just over 63% there for last year, is typically a lot higher. So there in 2021, nearly 1.5 under par scoring average, a much better driving accuracy. You go over here to 2019, there was no event in 2020 because of the coronavirus, another 1.5 under par scoring average, and once again, right, about 3-4% higher in terms of your driving accuracy than what we saw there in 2022. 2018, 1.62 under par scoring average. Driving accuracy right around 70.8%. That's nearly 7% higher than what we saw last year. And let's take a look at 2017. 2017, a year where it played maybe slightly harder, right, closer to what we saw last year, but still, in this right here is nearly a 10% difference when it comes to the driving accuracy. So something was going on last year. I'll point that out when we take a look at the percentages because it drastically changes the average for the field. So for fairways, I'm going to be avoiding them here for round one, but that's just a metric to keep an eye on after Thursday's action. Your green regulation average is typically right around 70%. It's worth noting that today they were expected to get a ton of thunderstorms here in Silvis, Illinois, which is actually right next to Iowa. If you're not familiar with where Silvis is, I wouldn't expect you to know. But they actually didn't get that today. It was supposed to be like 4 or 5 hours of thunderstorms that came through, and it ended up just being a passing shower. So rather than getting an inch of rain, it being absolutely drenched for Thursday's action, it's looking like it's just going to be a little bit damp, right? Especially in the morning hours. But as the day goes on, a lot of that moisture is going to evaporate. So I would say on like a Monday, we thought it was going to play a lot softer than what we're probably going to see tomorrow, but the beauty of waiting to put out this prop preview is now we have all of the latest information to work with. So in terms of your winds, they're going to be lower in the morning for Thursday than they will be in the afternoon. Your sustained winds and your wind gusts strengthen as the day goes on. That is very typical of a weather forecast on the PGA Tour, and really nothing that's surprising us there. You're going to have the greens that get slightly less receptive as the day goes on. Right, it's supposed to be sunny from sun up to sundown. That's going to bake out the greens as more and more play goes on. So the guys in the afternoon, they're going to have higher winds, but they're also going to have less receptive greens. So that scoring average will likely play easier in the morning, right, because of the greens being wet, probably closer to like 1.5, maybe even like 2 strokes under par. And then on the other side of things, in the afternoon wave, it's probably going to start creeping back closer to this average, right, closer to like maybe 1.1 or maybe 1.2 to 1.3 under par. So those are a few things to keep in mind. Your driving accuracy, if I had to put a bet on it, I think it's going to get easier to hit the fairways this year than what we saw in 2020, because like I said, that's really the one outlier when it comes to that. And then your green regulation percentage, I would imagine that's also going to be slightly higher than what we saw last year, but I'm not sure it's going to be a huge difference, right? There wasn't the huge outlier performance, right, that we had there in 2022. If we take a look at the green regulation averages, right, it was 70 last year. Year before that, 71. 2019, right around 70%. 2018, right, 1.4% higher. There's not that much variation with that. So expect it to maybe be like closer to that 71.4% mark that we ended up seeing 5-6 years ago. In terms of a board, that means that a lot of my positive stances, right, considering the weather, knowing that the golf course in the morning is going to be a lot easier than the golf course in the afternoon, which means if I want to take a supportive stance, right, I'm going to focus on the morning players. And if I'm going to bet against somebody, I want them to be in the PM wave. And on top of that, right, we want stat averages. We want, a player's skill set to further feed into that. And that's how you get a plus EV card for golf. So a few things over here on prize picks. So pars or better, I think, are one of the better categories, especially for a Matt Kuchar. And it's not just Matt Kuchar I'm playing. There are other players I'm taking here on this pars or better board. Of course, here in these previews, guys, I give you guys 3-4 picks on each site that I'm taking. The rest of them I post on my Patreon page, not just here for round 1, but for rounds 2 through 4. I'm posting them on there. But Matt Kuchar, this over for pars or better, my favorite prop across both sites. First off, Matt Kuchar, number 13 on tour when it comes to pars or better, in terms of saving par, right? Number 13 on tour. The actual stats, bogey avoidance that we're looking at there. And in this field, he is number 1 in that stat category. So for a field average, which last year was close to 2.8 bogeys or worse per round, something that Data Golf doesn't show on here, right? You have to calculate it through raw scores. The bogey average last year, I believe, was 2.81 per round. Your birdie average was just under 4.2. Birdies are better per round. So those are worth keeping in mind. And we're taking a look at this pars or better prop, right? He's going off in the morning, right? Kuchar's going to be on the easier golf course. He's a much better than average player, right? So he's got that going for him. And then he's the number 1 player on tour, right? When it comes to saving par, right? Bogey avoidance. He's, obviously favored to go over on this sort of prop, whereas there are guys on the board that maybe aren't so good at avoiding bogeys, that might be in the PM wave, for example, that you might want to take for fades. So that's Matt Kuchar prop, because of his bogey avoidance, is one of those top props for me. Another prop I want to point out over here is going to be this Beau Hossler under on strokes. So he's at 69 strokes. Again, it's a positive stance, right? I'm supporting Beau Hossler here by taking his under on strokes, wanting him to go out there, shoot some like 3-4 under par to go out there and hit for us, because he's a boarding wave golfer, right? 7:45 a.m. tee time, which is the Eastern time. He's actually teeing off at 6:45 a.m. local time over there in Illinois. And a player that, first off, is better than your tour average, right? And if I think the scoring average in the morning might be 2 under par, which for a par 71 setup, that's what we've got this week, would be 69 strokes. If I think he's better than average, right, and the average is going to be 69 strokes, we'd no doubt want to take the under, right, especially considering that he's an exceptional player, somebody that fits this kind of golf course, that in DFS for outrights I've even considered taking on that end, is why I'm taking an under on a Beau Hossler. So those are examples of plays I'm getting to, not the only strokes props that I'm taking by any means, but just to give you a little taste of what I'm working with. In terms of a fade, I'm going to go ahead and throw this Bezainhout under on here. So the point of that too, if we were to take him over, which I'm not, right, you'd only get paid 4x. The reason why we're mixing in a fade now is to get the full payout structure, right? We use an under. If you threw another under on there, right, you could probably even get it boosted up to like 12.5x, right, rather than 10x for a 4x card, is to get a regular payout structure. And I'll remind you guys, the average was about 70% greens regulation, which is below 13 greens. And even if we boosted that up to like 71, maybe like 71.5%, that's still under 13 greens regulation per round. For a player like Bezainhout, who has been losing on approach of late, it's also worth noting that this average includes intermediates, includes fringes, that sort of thing, because that's how Data Golf does their stats. Over here in Prize Picks and with the PGA Tour, they don't count those, and that usually counts for like a 4 to 5% boost artificially to a lot of these players' stats. I love the under here, right? He's in the PM. He'll have higher winds. He's going to have slightly less receptive greens as they bake out throughout the day, as it's going to be sunny for pretty much the entire day over there in Silvis. And for a player that's not known to be a really good iron player, I'd be projecting him at best. And I know he's a better than average player for this field. There's no doubt about that, right? Even though he's not an elite tier iron player, he's still probably better than most guys for this field. I have the field average closer to 12.5 or even 12 greens. Because first off, you have the artificial increase, and then you have the fact that he's in the PM wave playing a harder golf course. So like the under there, gives us a normal payout structure card, and gives you a taste of 3 of the different categories that I really like for round 1 on Prize Picks, and how I'm approaching them. Because just like the other props, right, it's not the only under that I'm taking over there for greens. There are a few other players that you can use that kind of mindset with and find a few plays. If you're going to play an LPGA, they just added it for the first time. They had it for round 4 of the PGA Championship they just played. Some of it got bumped already. I had Nelly over 3.5 birdies. She got bumped up to 4. She's the number 1 birdie maker on all of the LPGA Tour, so that was definitely a misprice there, especially because she's in the morning wave. This Thede, I call her Thede, Her last name's Thede Cole. One of the better birdie makers in the LPGA Tour. She's like number 3 in raw birdies made per year. She doesn't even have the most starts of anyone up there in that leaderboard. So also, even though she's PM Wave, so this is over there on the West Coast, she's teeing off at like 2:24 local time there at Pebble Beach. I'd probably take her over. So for the sake of the video, we're going to go with these 3 players. Maybe you dabble in LPGA for rounds 2 through 4 after you get some data on it. I did take a few shots, and I didn't post those on Patreon, but they're not official picks for me this week. But yeah, I don't know. I took a little shot on them for some fun, right? If you want to see them, join the Patreon, get in the Discord, send me a message after joining the Patreon, and I'll get you on the Discord, and you can check them out there. They're, like I said, they're not official by any means. Over here in Underdog, a few plays I like. So let's put the Seamus Power one on there, and let's find, where's Adam Hadwin? There we go, Hadwin. Both at 68.5 strokes. These are not values compared to Prize Picks. If you wanted to play them on Prize Picks, you very well could. I haven't to this point. I also haven't played them on Underdog. I'll explain why. All the value that I got in Underdog, I got on Monday, and everything was bumped half a stroke to a stroke higher than what it is now. I mean, I'm talking Keith Mitchell, 69 strokes. Eric Cole was at 69. I think Russell Henley was even at 69. 68.5 for like a Denny McCarthy. Literally every single player on the board. Like I think Chris Kirk was even, it was either 68.5 or maybe even 69 strokes. I slammed for unders. Over here in Prize Picks, they're obviously priced differently. You have like 68 for some of those players, right? Hadwin's, right? He's at 68 strokes. So I guess you do get a half a stroke little advantage there. And yeah, Seamus is at 68.5 on both. So no little, discount there, but still props I'd take for the unders. They're both going off early, which again, if I'm going to support a player, I want them going off early. And both of these two are among, let's say, the top 10, maybe top 15 players in the field, right? I'd say Seamus maybe not playing his best golf over the last month, but still respectable enough. And then Adam Hadwin, right, has nearly won multiple golf tournaments over the last few weeks. So if you're going to play anything late, right, after all of those bumps, it would probably be these two. But yeah, the one thing with Underdog, guys, is they're really quick to move the board to adjust for action for whatever reason. So for round 1 specifically, you've got to be there on Monday, right? Not even here on like a Tuesday, a Wednesday when I'm dropping this video. You've got to be hitting that board up as soon as it drops on a Monday. They're first to market. They're also the first to bump, unfortunately. Pros and cons of everything, right? Is what it is. They're, a lot of fun to play if you can get in there early. For rounds 2 through 4, of course, a little bit more manageable, right? There's not 3 days leading up to it. You still got to hit the boards when they drop, but a little bit easier to do so. So that would be the thing there. Again, guys, if you want all of my picks, check out the Patreon page. But the real recap here is if you're going to take a supportive stance, make sure they're a morning wave golfer. You're going to be playing on an easier course. If you're fading guys, take them in the PM wave as they'll be playing a harder golf course. Easy game, obviously. Try and find the best plays using that as a little boost there. And I think you're going to have a good slate. Best of luck out there, everyone. I'll see you guys at the live stream later if you have any questions when it comes to props, all that sort of fun stuff. And let's have ourselves a week when it comes to ROI.